Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of my YouTube channel. I know that it's been a minute. I think the last time we spoke, South Africa was still on level 3 of lockdown, and we are actually now on level 2, and hopefully seems like there's a huge possibility that we might be going to level 1 soon. So hey to everyone. Just before we get right on into it, I just want to share to give this week's shout outs. So the first shout out goes out to Mampumting, who is basically my second mom. And then the second shout out goes out to my sister, Unomvelo. And then the last three shout outs go out to my friends, namely Tariro, Smanga, and Aubrey. Thank you so much, guys, for showing me the love and the support, for always sharing the links, for always sharing the word about the channel itself and the content that I continuously create. Thank you. So this week, I'll be starting a new series. It is a 3-week series, and basically I'll be sharing my journey and my experience as a patient with chronic illnesses. I have two major ones, namely depression and epilepsy, and I'll just incorporate the others into one of these two, while I talk about them. What I intend to do is to share my experience, to share my journey, to share how I'm surviving, how I'm coping, how I've had to change, what I've had to leave behind, and to sort of provide a survival kit for someone out there, whether it be a boy, a girl, a woman, a man, a brother, a sister, anyone who's really going through any illness, but I think in particular any mental illness or any chronic illness. And what encouraged me to do this are words from this book. So this is currently what I am reading, and the authors in here say that people who are growing up are always drawn to individuals who bear battle scars, worry furrows, and tear marks on their faces. Their lessons can be trusted much more than the unlined faces of those who have never failed and so have never truly lived. And so this is me just saying to you that I do it so well. I dress up, I wear makeup, I do my hair, all in attempt to cover my battle scars. But the reality is that I am a human being. I do go through the wars of life. Life does catch up with me, and I do go through a lot of things. I'm an ordinary human being who is literally trying to survive each day at a time. But I think more than surviving, I'm trying to thrive. I'm trying to make sure that what I go through is someone that can encourage, that can inspire the next person. I'm trying to create a story to tell to the next person. I'm trying to create a legacy of some sort with what I've been through and how I've been through it. And I hope that is what I'll manage to do through these 3 weeks. And I really hope that it helps someone. And I hope that if it doesn't help you because you don't need it, I hope you can help someone else. I hope it's something that you can take and refer to the next person. So let's get right on into it. In the first week, which is this week, which is basically the first part of the series, I'll be addressing how I'm surviving as a patient with depression, especially during this lockdown, especially now that COVID is under attack. I think the first thing that I want to put out there is that you need to know what your triggers are. Once you know what your triggers are, no one can use them against you, and they can no longer be a weakness to your being. So, just to give you context, this is the background to my story. In 2010, I was involved in a pedestrian accident, and I was with my foster sister, who is younger than me at that time. And I broke my pelvis, and my whole lower body was paralyzed. And so I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't walk. I had to lie in bed for 6 weeks. I even had um, bed sores because of being on the bed for so long. I was on a wheelchair for some time. I was on crutches for a longer while. And I remember my doctor saying that you actually won't be able to walk until we perform an operation on you. And here I am walking. I had to relearn how to walk and to use my lower body again. But here I am doing it without having performed that operation. Then in 2011, I lost my stepfather. He was sick for quite a while, and eventually he was gone. And in 2013, I was then diagnosed with epilepsy. So it turns out that the 2010 accident had left me with some sort of brain damage, which only appeared 3 years later. So I was diagnosed then with depression, with epilepsy. So that's then in 2013. In 2017, I lost my biological father, and he wasn't really present in my life. And I remember when I found out the news that he's no more, my first reaction was that I'm angry. I'm angry because he wasn't present in my life, and I could no longer ask him why. So I had quite conflicting um, emotions even at his funeral. But I have forgiven him, and I really do hope that his soul is resting in peace. So I lost him in 2017. And in 2018, I lost my friend, my varsity friend, my very dear and close varsity friend, one of the people I first met when I came to varsity, and she was gone. And I went through all of those series of events, and I never really spoke to anyone about them, never saw psychologists, never went to therapy or anything of that sort, because I felt that other people needed me more than I needed myself. I felt my brother needed me now that he's lost his father. I felt he needed me to be strong for him, to be strong on his behalf. My mother had lost her husband, and I felt I needed to be the support structure that she needs during this difficult time, and during this time which will now continue to be difficult for quite a while. And I friend was such a strong person. She wouldn't want me crying. She wouldn't want me stopping my life and, going through all of these emotions of sadness, because she was such a bubbly person, such a happy person. And so I didn't afford myself that opportunity to cry, to sort of acknowledge that she's gone. And I went through life with that mentality for a very long time. And so I did not deal with things as they came. And last year I was in a relationship and I found out that my partner was lying to me about something that I really wouldn't want anyone to lie to me about. He lied to me about something that was very close to my heart, something that was very dear to me, something that I made very clear as a person, that this is how I feel about it and these are my views, and this is how I would like to go on about it. And when I lost that relationship, I broke down. And I remember going to the Agiso Psychiatric Hospital in Alberton, booking myself in, and then being diagnosed with depression, being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, also known to many of you as PTSD, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and being diagnosed with anxiety disorder. And I realized one thing while I was in there, that I have lost so much in my life, and I've never really gone through the grieving process. I've never mourned the loss of people, the loss of things, the loss of relationships. And so when I went through that breakup, my body was not going to let me go through another loss without grieving. And so here I was then at the Agiso hospital, being booked in, basically being admitted. And I should admit, being in a psychiatric hospital is it's safe, and there's a level of warmth that comes with it. Going out is the challenge. And I remember how excited I was when I was discharged, thinking that my 21 days is finally over and I can finally get my normal life back again. But here's the thing, and this is something which I wish I knew when I got discharged. When you enter into the psychiatric hospital, there are walls which are surrounding you. And you, as the patient with the mental illness, you are equipped with how to deal with your mental illness, how to deal with now this new norm which you now need to adjust to and live with. But people outside don't change, and people don't treat you differently just because you were at the psychiatric hospital, and people don't speak to you differently just because you were in the psychiatric hospital. People do not change. So one of the biggest things for me then was realizing that is a trigger. I used to take pride in people saying that I'm strong, that I'm strength, have now come to realize that people use that so that they can run away from their part in being held accountable. People tell me that I'm strong so that I have to carry the burden of their responsibility. People tell me that I'm strong so that they can get away with their actions and so that they can get away with doing things and being inconsiderate of my feelings and stamping on my feelings, and not realizing that I'm a human being who also feels, I'm a human being who hurts, who incurs pain. So I realized I actually don't want to be told that I'm strong anymore, because strength is not my name. Strength is a trait that I have, a trait which I can decide to put on and off depending on how I feel, depending on whether I want to or not. And it's something that I can decide, who would say, you know what, I want to be strong in this situation, or actually no, I don't want to be strong in this situation or on this matter or with this person. And so I think the worst thing that you can say to me right now is to say, especially when I tell you something, you know, when I raise something and I tell you this is a problem that I'm going through, and you say to me, oh, but you are strong. I think that's the worst thing that you can say to me. That is probably something that will make me cry, because you are not acknowledging what I'm saying to you anymore. You're dwelling on the fact that I have this trait, so it makes you have this illusion that I can go through anything and everything on my own. And I've had to cut down on so many friendships when I came to the realization of that trigger, because I had to now come to the fact, to the realization that if you are going to be a friend, if you are going to be a companion who won't acknowledge my feelings, won't acknowledge what I'm going through, but would rather say, because she has this personality trait, she can go through anything and overcome, then we are going to have a problem, because you're not acknowledging me first as a person, And yeah, but I think for me, that is how I've been dealing with depression. Realizing my triggers. I mean, as an anxiety patient, I know that my triggers are writing tests and exams. So I know that when I write a test or when I write an exam, I'm going to sweat, I'm going to have headaches, I'm going to go through all these woo-ha emotions. But because I'm aware of it, then I can do something about it. And it no longer plays as a weakness in my performance activities. In terms of my bipolar, I try to get myself out of situations which will aggravate me and sort of push me into the anger spectrum of my emotions. One of those things is talking to someone who is bluntly and deliberately rude. I cannot stand rude people, and when I can see even the slightest signs that you're about to be rude, I walk away, because I understand that this is a trigger to my bipolar disorder. The one which I'm still struggling with is my stress. That one for me is a daily war, and having to constantly remind myself that sometimes there is no need to stress or to dwell on certain things. But I think what I'm trying to get at is that having a mental illness doesn't mean that you are crazy. And that is the first thing that you need to accept, acknowledge, and embrace. It just means that certain states of your mentality is being disruptive, or it's just probably imbalanced, or it's not where you would want it to be. It does not mean that you are abnormal. It doesn't mean that you are suddenly psychotic, not crazy. You're just different, and it just means that you need to take different measures to dealing with certain things. Because for me, it was not so much the stigma which the outside world is giving to me that was a battle, but rather how I view myself, and how I viewed mental illness for a very long time. I viewed it to be weakness, if someone said that they had mental illness, I thought, oh, they can't deal with their issues. And because I had that mentality for a very long time, it took me a longer time to tap into my emotions and acknowledge that nothing is wrong with me. Absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. I just need to approach life in a different way. So I hope that this is what you take from this as someone with mental illness, especially during this pandemic. Find out what your triggers are, and find out if there are any ways that you can get away around them. And remember, you are not abnormal, you're not psychotic, you're not crazy. You are just different. We are just different. And different is not always bad. Being unique can be good because you can use your story, like I'm trying to do right now. And people can look at you and be like, wow, you can actually live with this. And you can actually overcome through this. So until next week then, for the next episode, goodbye.